Hey kids, how you doing? It's hockey day for a lot of people today. This is the first day that a lot of teams are going to get to go. We've got 10 games going tonight. We got second games already by some teams tonight.
Well,
Um,
the weird thing is, like tonight I'm in Toronto, as you can see in my cafe hiding spot.
yes,
And we're
charge
playing.
tickets next time, Mike. We're going to charge tickets if people can go watch
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no. I'm trying to be as incognito as possible because all the throng of fans that want my autograph.
Yes,
Um, but the Leafs play the Capitals. The Capitals played last night against Boston. The Leafs played obviously in Montreal. We'll talk about that one. Um, so at least they're on equal footing where both of them are playing second at back to back. But for the home opener, you're going to have the all-time goaltending matchup of Ilya Samsonov versus Charlie Lindgren, because I seriously doubt that the Capitals are going to start Darcy Kemper back to back on his back to back nights. That would be insanity. So I'm assuming they're
yeah.
going to start Charlie Lindgren. But Russ, do you have pre-show?
Here
I
you go,
do.
Russ.
Hey,
Welcome.
We're live.
Go to
yeah.
Russ.
Okay, so yeah, I forget we're live.
Sorry.
So let's talk about the Major League Baseball. Michael, enjoy this. Yesterday, the Yankees had a day off.
Mm-hmm.
Today, they knew the weather was going to be bad,
Right.
and they didn't do anything about it yesterday, like change the game to yesterday. So now tomorrow, the Yankees are going to play at 1:00 on a Friday in New York, and there are no refunds. Like they said, there's no refunds. You either go to this game or you're stuck. And I just think,
Man,
man, it's just, and I get it. Like in 1986, I went to a game. It got rained out. That's fine. But we've come a long way in weather technology and everything else where we could do better than this.
Well, this is the thing that irked, because they were talking about this on the Michael K show that I watch and listen to all the time, and they were going on and on about having retractable roofs for stadiums. How about you are a little flexible here and play the game yesterday when the weather was fine? Apparently, it was like
Right.
60, 65 in New York and no rain, and today it's
Beautiful
torrential
yesterday.
Yeah, today is torrential downpour. Apparently, I don't know if they've canceled it already. Have they, Russ?
They did. They did.
Okay. So
Yucky day out there.
now for the 50, 60,000 fans who bought tickets, probably wouldn't be that much of an imposition if you said, okay, Friday 7:00 we're going to play the game. Instead, they're going to play at 1:00 when half the people will be at work. They're going to have wasted their money. Play the game at 7. Who gives a good goddamn whether it's a conflict with the other
Right.
game that they're running? But they're not going to do that because Rob Manfred is an idiot, and Major League Baseball is stupid sometimes.
Yeah, they're basically, this is again where the sport is taking the TV money over the fans who buy the tickets. It's the opposite of what the NHL does. And, as a result, yeah, I bet you there's going to be 10,000 fans at least, maybe more, trying to sell their seats desperately, and they're going to get killed on the secondary market.
Yeah, they are. They are. No question about it. No,
It's a shame because we have better technology. But anyhow, whatever.
Have we looked at the tickets yet? Like, we should check out StubHub at some point and see.
Oh, yeah. I know people are expecting to get them cheap.
That there will be some on there, but
I'll look at it tonight just to, if I have a few minutes, just to see for shits and giggles.
Well, there's a lot of people who want to talk about the games from last night, so let's get going here.
Yes,
and I'm sure we're gonna have we're all gonna agree perfectly on this one.
I'm sure.
All right, all right. So let's go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Thursday, October 13th, 2022.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm the king of positivity and joy.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
You would have enjoyed our text threads last night, folks. I'm Matt Clue. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast at HockeyBuzz.com. It's the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday. Fills you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And tonight, a lot of the other teams are going to get going. So by the end of tonight, we'll have most of the league that would have gone. I don't know if everybody's gone yet. I don't think they have. But, so let's talk about let's talk about last night's games. I want to first of all, I'm taking a lot of heat for the Bruins. The Bruins win last night. The Bruins beat the. I want to start there. The Bruins beat the Capitals, and they looked great. I mean, and I was of course yesterday talking about the Bruins being and I also took some heat today because I changed something on my predictions, guys, from yesterday.
Oh, here you go.
When did you do this?
One day.
Because none of these teams have played yet. None of these teams have played yet, so I figured I could change it, but because I was looking a little bit further into things, and
who'd you clear that with?
I cleared it with myself. This is my website.
I cleared it with myself.
I can do whatever I want to do. All right. No,
clearly.
As I've proven time and time again.
The ruler of the world is me, myself, and I.
That's right. But I'll get to that later. But I didn't move Boston. I kept Boston exactly where they were. None of the things I changed today had anything to do with any teams I've seen so far or anything like that. Kept Boston where they are in a solid 6th place. They looked good against the Capitals, who I really don't think are all that good either.
Well, tell us the move. Come on, tell us the move.
I flipped the Sabres and the Red Wings. I flipped the Sabres to 5 and the Red Wings to 7. Okay. And the reason I did that was because I did not realize all the players the Red Wings were sending down. And I think it's a smart move. I think it's a great move. But I thought some of those guys might be readier, and I think that the Sabres guys are a little bit more ready. I also really like the extension of Granato to help them, further along. So yeah, that's the change I made. I made the change.
I will tell you this: the Sabres have done something good. Every player has their own goal song. I like that better than the team goal song. Yeah. And so now I'm hoping Casey Middlestat gets 40 goals this year because he's got Jukebox Hero by Foreigner, and I like that song.
Oh, nice.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now before
the
start of the game tonight. Now, I know that because I talked to somebody in the game ops in Toronto last year because you make my dreams come true is like you make me sick
Mike is so tired
and ill. It's the worst goal song in the history of professional sports. Even Austin Matthews, when asked about it, and Mitch Marner asked about it, said, no, I think we could deal with the change. But the game ops, they don't want to change the individual goal songs because, what happens if you have a deflection and you don't know who the goal scorer is? You're just like, unless you have a generic goal song in case you're not sure what the goal is, that it's really tough on them. Sabres aren't going to score that many goals anyway, so the individual goal songs aren't going to be that much of a problem. But I'll say this: if the Leafs score the first goal tonight, and you hear Hall & Oates, you're going to have people vomiting in the aisles at Scotiabank Arena. They hope that they played it during the preseason, but usually they don't do anything of any kind of new situation until the regular season. And I hope it's something different because for a team that scores a lot of goals, to hear that hideous song over and over again is just
what you want.
Reprehensible.
There's a lot of fans tired of it. I know that.
All right.
And actually, one of the teams last night, it may have been the Capitals, took the Leafs' old song before that.
Really?
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, it's at least it's not the orange and the black song. Anyway, all right.
That's true. We don't know what the Flyers song is going to be. We know theirs will be new as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. We might not hear.
If they ask sports, it's probably going to be like Frank Sinatra or something like Tony Bennett, something like that.
It's going to be from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
There you go. All right, so we're going to go through these games pretty quick because we're going to do the Metro Division, which is always a very controversial division to do and a very difficult division to do. So I'm
going to surprise everybody with my 8th place pick. Not really.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be sort of in that world. But all right, so let's talk about the game, the Canadiens Maple Leafs game. I called it, by the way.
You did.
I was on a chat. I was in a chat, and I sent you guys the chat. I was on a chat with Karen, our Montreal writer, who was at the game, and she told me that it was going to be. She had picked 3-1 Leafs, and I said, "Not 4-3 Montreal." That's my thought, and bam.
Typical Corinne with the reverse curse with that, that typical.
He's not trying to.
It is
It doesn't revolve around you, Mike. Believe it or not.
No, not me. It's the typical, Quebecois, Montreal, that they need to curse the Leafs They've won their Stanley Cup because they beat Toronto in the season opener. Now they can go 1-81, and every fan in La Belle Province will be satiated because they beat the hated Maple Leafs.
There's no doubt that their level of play goes up against Toronto. That's obvious.
I mean, that's why I picked it. I mean, I don't think Montreal's going to finish ahead of Toronto. I did yesterday. I think Toronto's going to finish first and Montreal's going to finish last. But I think that, I mean, I've seen this. We've seen this script before. We've seen these teams play on opening night before.
But let me just say one thing before we talk about Leafs Canadiens, because you mentioned Bruins and we didn't go on. If you looked at the box score yesterday, it was like it was a 2013 box score. Bergeron, Krejci, Pasternak, Bergeron. It was just, Taylor Hall scored a goal. It was just, I don't know if that's sustainable. And I keep saying that, they don't have Marchand and they don't have McAvoy, but they played Allmark in the opener. They didn't play Swayman. I was a little surprised by that, Russ.
Apparently Montgomery is now going to never say who's starting right until the morning of the game. So I can't say I'm surprised, because I figured when he was doing that, it wasn't going to be Swayman, because otherwise I figured he would have just said it already. I had a feeling it would be different.
Yeah. The other thing that happened that we do have to, before we get into Montreal, China, we do have to talk about is Patrick Laine getting hurt in that game, which sucks because he did score a nice goal.
And it wasn't even a dirty hit. It was just one of those plays.
Yeah, he was rubbed out along the boards, and you were right, Russ. They said upper body. I thought when they showed the replay, it looked like his leg got caught in along the ice or on the boards. But,
I think it's his wrist or forearm. That's what he was pointing to on the bench. And it just they need him so badly, because him and Goudreau would be great together on power plays, and now we're going to get robbed of it for a while, because I have a feeling it's going to be a month or more.
They brought Johnston back up. They sent him down briefly, but they brought him back up. We thought it was, he's on the border of being ready.
But, I mean, at this point, you might as well, because you're missing a big cog, and he's going to be out a little while. So yes, why not? I think that's good. Yeah,
the weird thing was that Ovechkin didn't score last night, which was interesting.
Don't worry. He's saving up his goals for Toronto, because I looked it up. 53 career games against the Leafs, 41 goals. So he'll get at least one, maybe two tonight. He loves it.
So we're going to see Samsonov tonight, right? And the thing, and they talked about how we're going to see how he's good. Well, Murray's going to play against Ottawa this weekend. Is this really a good idea? Does anybody realize that the shooters also know the goalies? I always wonder about this. Ovechkin definitely knows Samsonov inside out. To me, is this really the way to go?
I think it's a motivational play. It's okay, it's his first game as a Leaf. How much more is he going to get up for the fact that he's playing the team that decided not to qualify him? So I think it's a good motivational tactic. Samsonov is playing against that team. Murray is playing against the team that decided, hey NHL, I'll pay 1/4 of this guy's salary to get rid of him because we think he sucks.
I'm going to say this strategically. I mean, if it wasn't Matt Murray, I would play the back-to-back, because I don't know if I want Samsonov's first game to be a home game in Toronto, because if he doesn't do great, he's going to hear it from the crowd immediately. It's not like they're going to hold back. I think it's an easier start to his career to play on the road, but that's me.
I would have flipped him. I would have played Samsonov last night.
And you can't do that either, not with Murray being the number one. You can't do that.
Is he the number one, though? I mean,
he is for now.
All right.
But the one thing that's not number one, and it showed up in last night's game, and you wonder if it's going to show up in this night's game, and that is going to be the just the way the defense was. These guys are all just plain stick work. It just sounded like a bunch of canastas on the ice, but nobody was actually pushing anybody with their body. Nobody was actually cutting them off from the net.
There was somebody pushing bodies around, and that was Montreal. The Leafs hardly hit anybody. It was
but I mean, just as in general, the defense on both sides was so bad that it was just turnover. And they obviously the Leafs don't want to do that. They can't sustain that. But I don't know, with Washington losing yesterday, Mike saying Ovechkin liking it in Toronto, they got to watch it tonight with that. They really do.
I mean, this is the thing about the game against the Canadiens. I mean, obviously you knew the Habs would be pumped up. You had Carey Price come out and wave his cowboy hat to everybody before he goes and collects his $10.5 million. You had Juraj Slafkovsky as his the number one pick playing his first game in Montreal, and Russ. Honestly, I barely noticed him. I'm not saying.
The one play where when Sandin took him out, which actually was a pretty good play.
Yeah,
for a much smaller defenseman.
And they called a penalty on it, which I thought.
And they called a penalty, and I'm not sure it was. He tried to block a shot once. It didn't necessarily work out. It wasn't the greatest game for him. I mean, Cole Caulfield. Yeah. What do you say about Cole Caulfield? Anybody again who passed on him in the draft is just looking silly now.
But this is one of those teams. Man.
Yep.
But this is the narrative of this game, and after the game, Sheldon Keefe was not pleased. I think that's the understatement of the year, and some of the players were, I think, reflected the fact that the coach had chewed them out. They outshot the Habs, but that sometimes is not an indicator of what I think was a fairly one-sided game in favor of Montreal early on. The Leafs scored the first goal. They came back and took the lead in the second period. Caulfield scored two really nice goals where he picked top corner on the first one that nobody would have stopped. The second one was a deflection off of the defenseman that went to the corner. Hi, Jake. Or is that?
No, that's on X side. Jake.
Yeah, just mute yourself for a second. So 2-2 in the third period. From the middle point of the second period to the middle of the third period, the Leafs had the advantage of play. They got a penalty shot. Alex Kerfoot couldn't convert. They had two power plays. Their power play, which was first in the league last year, couldn't finish, couldn't score. And then on a point shot that hits a guy in front, it goes right to Sean Monahan, and they take the lead. The Leafs, 40 seconds later, tied the game. And at that point, Russ, I'm saying to myself, I'm looking at this game and I'm looking from the Maple Leaf perspective. I'm like, okay, you're lucky right now that you're tied. You've got a minute and 40 seconds left. All you do right now is play careful, dump it in the zone, get the point, go 3-on-3, and maybe you win the game. And instead, this guy is the bane of my existence when it comes to analyzing and talking about the Leafs. Justin Hall pinches in at the offensive blue line with 35 seconds left to go in regulation. He gets caught 2-on-1 the other way, mad scramble in the zone. Jake Muzzin tries to shoot it out. It goes right to a Habs player. It goes to Josh Anderson. He blows it by Murray 4-3. And it's like, honestly, the amount of incompetence on that series of plays, but started by Justin Hall, who I think should not be on this team, but the only reason he is because Timothy Liljegren is hurt. These are losses against the worst team in the league based on last year's record that kill you. This team has always had a problem, at least in the Shanahan era, of not being able to beat the teams that they should beat. They can't beat Buffalo. They can't beat Montreal. They will play great against Tampa and Florida, but they can't beat the teams that should be an easy 2 points. And I think it's a statement of the lack of fortitude on this team to be able to take things easy against other teams and expect those other teams to lay down. Well, this is the NHL.
I don't know if they take it easy, but I think they were in better than preseason form, just slightly. Yeah. And I think Montreal was way more jacked than they were, and I think that's a problem. The other thing is, look, as Tony Soprano said, and we noticed, there is a book on Murray now going for his glove side. Until he proves otherwise, there's going to be a book on that, and so that's something where he's going to have to battle through that, or the defensemen are going to have to keep it away from his glove, and that's hard to do. But that's something. But I will tell you this, that John Tavares pass to Nylander was great. Like that, if anybody ever questions John Tavares on the difficulty of that pass, under a stick the way it was beautiful.
Tavares has a level that he sometimes goes to. Like I do get a little frustrated that he doesn't play at that level more often. Like I think that I think he is. Earlier in his Islanders career, he did play at that level a little bit more often than he does now. But but when he plays that level, like he did in the playoffs last year a couple times too, when he hits that level, he does become everything you want him to be. Like he becomes that crazy dominant player.
Yeah.
But here's the issue on that play, and I was like saying to myself, what the hell's going on? They score the goal. They reviewed the offsides, but they gave the Habs about 90 seconds before they asked them to take a timeout or they were going to start the play. And then they reviewed it. It was easily 5 minutes from the time that the goal was scored until they reviewed it and said it was a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an odd thing that they did.
I'm forgiving you a few seconds to pull up the video, but gee, would you like some milk and cookies with that too? I mean, it was friggin' ridiculous.
It did take too long.
I mean,
it did. It took too long. There's no question.
Yeah, I mean, I think there in the rules there is a time limit in terms of.
There is.
Yes. And there definitely was not being followed yesterday because it's like they were they're at the bench and Trevor Letowski and Marty St. Louis are looking at the iPad and I'm like, okay, make it.
I freaking hate this.
Like, you want to review?
We've talked about this rule. I hate it. I hate the whole thing of it. I hate it. I can't stand any of it.
Me too.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
That's all right. Let's switch games though. I did as much as I could stay up to watch the Anaheim game, the Anaheim Seattle. Some interesting things. I don't think Shane Wright got hurt, but he only played 6 minutes. So, like, what's Dave Haxtell doing?
What is he doing there? Seattle, Seattle deserved better than that game. Gibson, that game.
So that's one thing that stood out to me. He wasn't playing Shane Wright. The other thing was, he said it himself, and Troy Terry does really well against them. And they were like, we have to make sure Troy Terry doesn't do anything. He scores 2 goals. Like, he picked right up where he is last year.
That's something because you always look for that like sophomore thing or whatever. There's no sign of it whatsoever. I love Anaheim still. I do, and they did not deserve to win that game. I mean, Seattle was dominating them early.
No, but Gibson, while he was getting barraged, he made some fantastic saves.
He was awesome. Definitely.
There was a couple short side that he made that were just tremendous. So, look, I mean, that's the kind of game where it shows. Now, I didn't say this earlier, like when I was asked about coaches that could be fired. Yeah. But if this were to go on a few weeks like this with Seattle and Haxtell, he could be fired.
This is what I said. Yes, I said with Seattle. I'm like, I'm not a Haxtell fan, this just shows again he doesn't adjust. He's way too even. Like he's too like he looks like Have you guys ever played the computer game The Sims? Like, oh yeah, okay, he looks like a Sims man. Like what I mean? Like, and I know it's partly just how he looks.
But he had that look. He had that exact Sims look. He does. When Terry scores the goal and they show him on the bench because they know that was part of his game plan, and it was just like that look was just like
I know. It makes me insane. And
it was a look of failure. It
was. And I felt and listen, Seattle, they played really well. They really did. Again, Grubauer it's just not.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a starter. Like I'm still sticking with that. Like
they have a lousy defense though. Like Mike said, Alexiak should not be playing as high up as he does.
Yeah,
I like Alexiak. He's not like best defenseman on your team.
Vince Dunn is on their top pairing. That's how
right. Here's the game really had to talk about before we move on in like a minute here is Edmonton Vancouver, which was the best game of the night. But it was up late, and a lot of people probably didn't get to watch it. And it's the opposite of an Edmonton Oilers game. This is what I mean about the Edmonton Oilers to me. This is the difference between the Edmonton Oilers now. Because how many times, because those who live on the East Coast who watch the Edmonton Oilers, because you put on the Edmonton Oilers because it's McDavid, you got to watch it. But how many times over the last several years have we fallen asleep with the Oilers winning and woken up and the Oilers had lost?
That's true.
It's just like this is typical Edmonton Oilers, right? Brian Campbell. Jack Campbell was terrible in the beginning of this game. He really was. He was really bad. Made me feel like maybe made me feel like for a couple minutes Mike was right. But I
just for a short time,
just for a short period of time, I was like, yeah. But then you remember what Campbell does, which is
right.
He is a bend, don't break goalie, right? And last night was the perfect example of it because and Elias Pettersson, he's got another level this year, which is what we've been waiting for. Like he really, the first goal he scored last night was a Gretzky goal.
Yeah, you were talking about that. That was good.
That was a Gretzky-esque goal all the way. And I've always said that Pettersson reminds me of his skating style and the way he looked, the way he passes, just his movement, his whole body. Like if you were to make a computer simulation of Gretzky, it would look like Pettersson.
He's got a similar body type too.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's got Gretzky skills, but he skates like him. He passes like him. He puts his head down like him. He does all these things that are very, very, very familiar to Gretzky. And that was a Gretzky goal. It was a beautiful, I mean, an all him goal. Like he picks off the pass, skates in, makes two moves, goes around the goalie, and from behind the net pulls it back in. Just like that's just a goal.
See, I don't see. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't see much of a difference here. It's like they won a game because Connor McDavid scored a hat trick. Of course they did, because
you have Connor McDavid, so you can't hold that against him.
I'm not holding it against him, but I'm saying this does not.
It wasn't just McDavid because.
Let me finish. This game doesn't deviate from the usual Edmonton formula. They get over the line because you've got two of the probably three best forwards in the NHL, and one dominated and helped overcome a 3-0 deficit because the Edmonton goaltender. I thought the one goal. I think it was the first one that went in between the pad and the glove on Campbell was really bad, and the Kuzmenko goal I don't think was a good one
either. Good either. But here's the thing about it, okay? They're down 3-0, and this brings back memories to one of those games against Tampa last year in the playoffs, where Toronto was down 3-0 early, and at that point, why Campbell is a great goalie for a team that can score a lot of goals is he doesn't give up on a 3-0 game. Like,
right. That's true.
Which a lot of goalies do, like a lot of goalies, he actually continues.
I don't want to say they give up. Their level of play is not the same.
He continues to play hard, and he made and Cohen said it in the chat room, Campbell made 2 to 3 giant stops when it was 3-0, and he did. And because the difference between 3-0 and 4-0 and 5-0 is huge, obviously. Yeah. So that, when you have a team like Toronto last year or a team like Edmonton this year, if you can keep it within 3, you've got a shot. They can come back. They can attack that quickly, right? And they did.
I just wonder back in the day if when, Gretzky and Messier were scoring, if Mike was just like, Gretzky and Messier scored again. It's the same old thing.
Well, so, and we can sit there and say that if Matthews isn't scoring, how many games do the Leafs win last year?
Well, that's one of the reasons why the Leafs didn't win yesterday was because Matthews didn't score. But by the way, I just got to respond to Paul in the chat. Just because I'm in public doesn't mean I'm not going to be who I am. I could drop an F-bomb right now if you want me to, but I'm not going to because there's no point to it.
I'm going to throw that out there right now. I would rather you not.
Okay, well, I'm not. But believe me, I'm just as animated in the coffee place in Toronto as I am in the basement studio in downtown Chickawaga.
To be fair, you look more live action than animated to me. All right, so. All right. Okay, so here we go. So, but this game, and then there was a great moment when. And Evander Kane passes backwards to McDavid to give McDavid the hat trick in an open net. That's Kane saying to McDavid, "Thank you, man, for bringing me back." Because
no doubt,
McDavid's the reason Kane's on that team. There's no two ways about it. Like the only reason Kane gets that contract and is on that team is because McDavid wanted him to be on that team.
Yeah, let's see 6 months from now if that's a good thing or not.
It was fine last year. I mean, I don't love Evander Kane, but he got through last year. Okay,
I think he is past it. I think I knock on wood everywhere I can.
I'm not gonna say that yet, but I get what you're saying.
I feel like he's past it, and that was a sign last night that showed that. All right, so let's get into this Metro mess. The Metro division, which is like, which I thought was, we had Dan Pitcher on recently, and he brought up that he thought this division was weak, and he's not wrong.
I think it's weaker than last year, but I don't think it's weak.
It's been the strongest division for a couple years, in my opinion. Yeah. And this year it's not. And so let's start off number 8, and it's pretty easy. I think we all know where we're going to go with this one, right? Like this is. I'm not going to surprise anybody here and tell you the Flyers are going to win the division.
Carolina. No,
I'm not going to put Carolina there. I'm putting the Flyers in number 8. Solid.
Well, especially 8. Now with Ristolainen out. Like now it's like, my God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to – I will – if I'm going to do a best case scenario for the Flyers, 6th, worst case scenario, 8th. I think that they are it's perhaps possible that Torts gets them to play defense enough, and Carter Hart can make enough saves to move them up a little bit, but they're weak. They're a weak team. There are some things to look forward to. I mean, and down the line, and I do think that people are going to realize that Morgan Frost has arrived. Like that's something that
I hope
if he shows what he showed in the preseason. I always felt like Morgan Frost was the natural replacement for Claude Giroux. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think
the only thing I would say is, again,
that's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
It is.
I'm not going to say he's going to be Claude Giroux, but he does. No. He plays a very similar game to Claude Giroux.
Sure, I think there's some transferable skills there. Yeah. I think the thing that was the problem was what Chuck Fletcher addressed the media yesterday and said they're going to be fast and fun to watch. I'm going to go back to a story where this was Bobby Clark's last year as a GM for the Flyers. And speed was starting to take over in the league, and the Flyers still were big and lumbering, and they had too many veterans. And I remember asking him, because I wanted to get a quote from him so I could use it in an article. I asked him about the speed of the team, and he said, the speed is fine. We'll be fine. And that was when they had their worst season in a million seasons, right? And I could tell you now, compared to what the Devils' speed is, the Flyers are nowhere near that. They have some guys that could skate, but these teams all have like 9 or 10 or 12 guys that could skate like that. So this is where I think the Flyers are going to be in trouble, because even saying that, just because you're watching what Torts does with them in practice or you're counting preseason, watch what happens in games.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're going to see where this goes, right? But this is I am not overly optimistic about this.
No. So they're last. We all have them last.
They're last. All right. So let's go with you, Russ, because this is your division too. Give me who is 7th in this division.
7th, Washington Capitals.
Yep.
The last few weeks I have soured on them to a point where I'm like, boy, I'm not sure what they can do, because their defense is just not that great. And Kemper has just so many great games in him where he's going to get, he's going to have games where he's going to give up the bad goal. And I don't know if they could overcome that. I looked at their lines, who's on the team. I don't love it. I'm not feeling it at all. This is another one of those seasons where if the team tunes out Laviolette, they just bottom out.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I'm with you on this with Washington. I am. I think that, and I'm surprised, because I thought people were going to be yelling at me for putting Washington 7th, but I really think that is, and Mike still might, but I think the Capitals could be. Listen, they could be better. The 7 through.
No Backstrom really hurts though.
Yeah. 4, 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7 in this division. We always talk about groupings. I think there's a grouping in 5, 6, and 7 in this division, I would say. But the Capitals are in there. And who do you have at 7, Mike?
I have the New Jersey Devils. I like the addition of Palat. But a lot depends on the goaltending bouncing back, on Blackwood being closer to what he was a few years ago. Vitek Vanacek is I think an average goaltender. He's, I think, a 1B. He's there in case Blackwood sort of drops the ball again, if there's problems with him. I love Jack Hughes, don't get me wrong. I think they have some really good young forwards, but I just don't know if there's enough there. And again, the specter of Lindy Ruff and his effect on young players. I know Jack Hughes backed him. I don't get it, because Lindy Ruff's history has always been terrible with young players. But, if they have success, I think it'll be in spite of Lindy rather than because of him. I just don't think they're strong, like in a division it's not ridiculously strong, but I think there are like 3 or 4 teams, Washington being one of them, that are sort of in the same grouping. But I just think New Jersey, until I see them convince me, until the goaltending proves that it's good, then I'm still a skeptic.
Yeah. Okay. This is kind of our review of Washington, since we did do a review of Washington too. So I will say I'm with you. I mean, the loss of Backstrom is enormous.
It's massive, and I don't think he's coming back this year.
I don't think he's coming back either.
Oh,
I don't think they think he's coming back either.
I have Washington 6, just those to put the cap on the Caps. Replacing Backstrom with Dylan Strome is is insulting. I mean, Dylan Strome is okay, but he's not Backstrom.
No.
You're gonna have Kuznetsov playing with Ovechkin, and Ovechkin might score a ton of goals because Kuznetsov is pretty good. But I don't see past like TJ Oshie where they're getting secondary offense.
Mantha scored yesterday. Yeah, he could do some. Yeah.
I know Mantha scored, but Tom Wilson's out. I don't know how long Tom Wilson's out. That's a big.
That's
thing.
A massive thing for them.
Yeah, and defensively, I mean, they have Carlson, they have Orlov, but the rest of their defense is, they lost Justin Schultz. The rest of their defense is sort of.
Yeah, Favarri's a nice little defense, nice decent defenseman, but he's not anything special.
Right, the rest of their defense is pedestrian. So so that's why I have double 7, and cap 6.
All right. Well, I have just to finish off with the Caps a little bit. They're old. I mean, they're old and they look old. And they looked old last night. That game last night was a game that could have been played in 2013. You're right, between both teams. I mean, what those two teams have in common is virtually no one signed for next year. Like we talked about this before, but both of the Capitals and the Bruins are all in this year. And I think the Bruins are have more justification to be all in than the Caps do.
Yeah, the Caps are like the Flyers last year, all in.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it. I agree with that. There's like a 10% chance it works and the 90% chance it doesn't, right? Like,
right.
But the 10% chance it could work really well.
Sure.
Just like the Flyers could have stayed healthy and worked really well last year, but 90% it won't. And the reality is, I don't think it's going to work for the Capitals. I feel bad. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are Caps fans and they're really pissed off at me about this. But I think that they are. So listen, I could always be proven wrong. And
listen, we're not going to lie about it. Whatever we think, we think.
Chances are I will be wrong because the Capitals are one of those teams that I pick absolutely wrong every time. Like if I pick them to win the division, they don't do well, and if I pick them to do poorly, my Metro division is the division. Maybe I don't know. Sometimes the divisions you're closer to are harder to pick, but this one I feel like Capitals are not there. My sixth team is Columbus, and I think that I like where the Blue Jackets went, but the Metro has teams that are just better than them, and I like where they're heading. I believe in Jarmo Kukalainen in a big way. He's one of my probably top 4 or 5 GMs in the league. I think he does a great job. I am not 100% an Elvis guy yet, but I think I'm 90% there. He's not one of my favorites. He's not the worst.
I have Columbus 5, and okay. I mean I had him 5 before the Line A injury, but if it's something significant, that's going to hurt them a little bit. But my issue again is not I like the young centers in Johnson and Sillinger. I like adding Goudreau, and you've got some veteran guys still there. Look at their defense past Gavrikov and past Werenski. They've got a bunch of guys who I don't okay, they signed Andrew Peeke for a little over $2 million a year. He's not. I don't think there's a book on him about how good he is right now. They signed Jake Bean. They signed Adam Boquist. They all signed him for like 2.5 around that area. And the reason they got him at that amount is because right now they're uncertain commodities.
Yeah, I mean, Bean's probably the more known of the 3, but you're right. I mean, they're all uncertain. Peake's good defensively. He's not good offensively. Yeah. So that's what the hope is for that role. But none of them are there now. The funny thing is, Zach, I mean, a day after watching them after Laine get hurt, I got to put him 6th. I can't put him any higher. I would have had him higher if Laine was healthy and I saw a different result last night. But the problem is I don't think they could play without Laine. And so now how many losses will pile up because they don't have Patrick Laine, or if he's got a nagging injury all year? So I got to bet against them now. That's why they're 6th.
And the Gaudreau thing, I mean, it's wonderful. It's going to be exciting for fans.
I still think he'll be great there. I'm not worried.
I think he'll be great there. Boone Jenner's not a first-line center, obviously.
No.
But, Gaudreau has shown to be a lot better when he plays with highly skilled players than he is when he doesn't.
Sure.
And I don't know that he doesn't have obviously a line
like Hughes is highly skilled. If Gaudreau brings him along, that could be a hell of a combination.
That's true. And we can see that as it goes along. I agree. But I just think that they're a little bit, like I said, to me, 5, 6, and 7 are all kind of washes. They could go in any way here. So for me, 5 is New Jersey, and I think the Devils could finish as high as 3rd though. So I think I'm kind of putting them in, like, if I always say, best case, worst case, this is the worst case, finishing fifth to me. This is the worst they could do. I think they are going to be a lot better. They're going to be very fast. They could potentially finish ahead of the team I have ahead of them right now, I think, and make the playoffs. They're going to be in that bubble. And even at 5, they could actually make the playoffs. They could.
Yeah, I don't think at 5 they will, though. I have them at 5 too.
I'm at 5 too. I think it's going to be a
as
battle.
much as I love what they have going offensively and even defensively, I think they're improved. I still have to be shown what they can do in the net, and that's still going to be a big issue, I think.
So we have the same 4 teams in the bottom half, all in different order.
All in different orders, yeah. So what are my order is 5 New Jersey, 6 Columbus, 7 Washington, 8 Philly.
Mine is 8. Mine is 8 Philly, 7 New Jersey. Sorry.
6 New Jersey. No, you said 6.
6 Columbus and 5.
Washington, right?
Yeah, and I'm Philly.
No, 6 Washington, 5 Columbus. Sorry.
Okay.
Right. I'm 8 Philly, 7 Washington, 6 Columbus, 5 New Jersey.
Russ and I are on the same exact page. Yep,
we are.
Okay.
We're on the same
So
spot.
number 4.
Number 4 is where the boos start raining down.
Carolina.
Me, at least.
Carolina.
No.
Carolina number 4.
No. Number 4 is the New York Islanders.
I have the Islanders there too.
Carolina, definitely Carolina. The Islanders are going to show us a lot. You're going to start seeing it, by the way, tonight. I think Carolina, Florida is going to be a fun game to watch. But Carolina, the Islanders, Florida is going to be a fun game to watch tonight. I think you're going to start to see the Islanders, how they're going to be good tonight. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking. Now listen, I like Carolina. Everybody loves Carolina, but I'm not an Anderson fan. Like, I think that
Listen, I'm not either, but they have everything else, and they added Brent Burns. Like, come on.
He had a great regular season.
I know, and he could have a great regular season again, but I'm not. And listen, again, to me, these top 4 teams could finish in any order too. But I think that, I feel like the Hurricanes are just, they're just not quite where these. And I like Burns. I like to pick up with Burns, but I don't like some of the guys they lost. Like, I think Trocheck and Niederreiter are 2 players that were big parts of Brendan Moore's offense.
There's no question they're going to miss those guys, especially Trocheck. Trocheck, I think, was like 66% on faceoffs for the Rangers.
Well, yeah. I do think, and we saw the sign of it in their first game. Nekish scored, Svechnikov scored, Seth Jarvis scored.
They played against a bad defense in Columbus,
right? But I'm just saying is like that's going to be the key.
Yeah, those are guys they have to get scoring out of. Mike's right in that.
And I think Brendan Moore's a hell of a coach too. One of my favorites. So I think that they could easily finish above this spot. I just don't think they will. I think that they're going to finish. Well, because of goaltending. If I look at the 4 top teams, their goaltending is below the other 3.
Well, I mean, they play a defensive style that covers up for their goaltending, and their goaltender had a .925 save percentage last year. So I understand. He's not Sorokin, he's not Shesterkin, he's not. But I think he's better than Tristan Jarry. So,
he's better than Jarry.
I don't think so.
Now, we'll stick with Carolina here because like I said, we have the all.
I can't go Carolina because
no. I was just saying, Eck has Carolina 4th. I have the Islanders 4th.
Yeah, so do I.
And this has been. Let's talk about the Islanders here.
Yeah, you guys talk about the Islanders.
Okay. Goaltending is not the issue. Sorokin and Varlamov is
maybe the best tandem in the league. Could be.
Exactly. Now, if they need to make a move at the deadline, they may have to trade Varlamov to clear the cap space. Their defense, Dan Petru was, and I love Dan, but he was talking about Romanov just stepping into their top 4 and being a difference maker. He was not a difference maker in Montreal the last couple seasons. He was a 5. He was a 5. Right. I get that, but I mean, there was a reason for that. They were going for a Stanley Cup, and they were playing Brett Kulak over him.
Yeah, he's a good skating defenseman who has some toughness and can play on the power play if you need him to, but he's not going to score a lot on the power play. And with the Islanders, they're not going to use him on the power play. So it's like it's a good addition, though, compared to what they had.
There are holes on the blue line, but the big problem I have is I don't know who's scoring on this team, Russ. And that's the thing.
Their scoring's coming from the top six.
Right. And if it doesn't, you're not going to get massive goals out of Clutterbuck, Zizekas, and Matt Martin. So
that line just keeps getting older.
Yeah. So I think they're fourth, and I think if they make the playoffs, it's by the hair of their chinny chin chin. Yeah,
I think Barzal will have more points. I think Palmieri will do better. I've seen nothing out of Pajot again. I mean, maybe he adds that defensive forward factor, but again, you need offense from him as well. Nelson had a career year, I think, but I always like Nelson. He's a really good player. Bailey looks like maybe he's a little better than he was last year, so that helps. But I just think if they're a team that's down 2 goals, I think they're in trouble. They're a team that's going to have to play with the lead, so that's why I got them fourth.
Right. Well, I've got them in third, and I think that, I think that I go back to what I said before, that last year I felt like they were very good after they were very bad, and they were the best team in the East from February on. This is the last time I'll say it, but it's true, and and that
you won't say it for the last time. You'll use it again.
No, I won't, because the new season's begun. I like Romanov. I think that he can do a lot more and I think he was just nervous in Montreal. Like, he played nervous in Montreal all the time. And I think I think you're going to see when he relaxes and plays out of that pressure cooker that is Montreal, he's going to be a different player. I think that was a steal. I think that was a hell of a trade. And they needed it because they need transitional defensemen. And I think he's a good one. I really do. I think he's a really good one. And I think the biggest issue I have with this team is that, they have not been able, the defense could not get the puck to the forwards, and that was why their offense sucks. Their offense is not terrible in and of itself. They just have no quarterbacks to get to the receivers.
Yeah, but listen to what you're saying. And I agree with that assessment. They traded Devin Taves because they didn't have the cap space. They traded Nick Leddy because they needed to jettison him and his $5 million salary. They had no Dobson at that point. So they really weren't gaining anything. And they gained one mobile defenseman. And believe me, Romanov is not a puck rusher in Montreal. He's a skating defenseman, but he's not extremely offensive minded. The problem of converting defense to offense is still a problem. You've got that.
It's not going to be great, but I think that it'll be a lot better. And I think that I'm not going to say that they're going to win the Stanley Cup here, but I'm thinking that they have enough depth and enough speed and enough, and I do think that you're going to see a huge bounce back from Barzal. I think that we're not going to. That season last year is definitely not a normal season for him at all. I also think you've got other guys on this team that are just waiting to jump out and actually score. Like Wahlstrom, I believe, is a goal scorer, and I think you'll see that this year. And you guys know that I love Sorokin, so it's like I think that they are Sorokin gets him in the top 3 by himself almost this year, because I think he's gonna be knocking on the door for the Vezina this year. So we'll see. That's my opinion. Number 3.
The one thing about the Islanders that's interesting. So when they dumped Richard Panik into the AHL, they now loaned him to Lucerne, so they only have whatever it is, $1 million against the cap.
Oh, no. If he's loaned to a European team, the money's off the cap.
It doesn't say that on Cap Friendly. It says Panik, who's in the final year, will continue to count against the Islanders' cap at the buried amount.
Well, I mean, maybe there's something with it being loaned, because Linus Sandin, there was a tweet out there that because he was put on waivers today that he's going back to Rogel. He's going back to Sweden. If he does that, then he's not going to be on his contract. But
he's a younger player.
Yeah,
Panik's a veteran, so it must be something to do with that. Anyhow, and then Bodie Wild's like out there in the ether. I said I could see the Sabres picking up Bodie Wild, throwing him in Rochester, because their whole coaching staff knows this kid. Yeah, and he's a very physical defenseman and a good skater. There are gambling issues on, with the puck and everything, but I would bring this kid in because if nothing else, he could be a physical defenseman for them down the line in a depth role. And I don't know why the Islanders completely just gave up on him, but they did.
Yeah, first, this is the book with the Islanders. It's the Josh Hosang book. If he's not part of our future, let's loan him out someplace so he doesn't.
There's a character issues with Lou. Like him or love him or hate him or whatever.
And Wild. annoyed him, I think, last year because he didn't get vaccinated. I'm pretty sure that was it.
Oh, I'm sure that's it. And and Lou just is like that. Lou thinks that that's a selfish non-team thing to do, and he just won't have it. Lou has his.
But that has nothing to do with his on ice.
No, it doesn't. And I think the Buffalo Sabres would be very smart to bring. I agree with you. That's a great fit for him, and it's a place that makes a freaking ton of sense. And I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
I think I have Pittsburgh third.
Me too.
I think I think Jari has to repeat the year that he had last year, which was excellent. I'm a little skeptical of Pittsburgh because we did their preview on them before. A little skeptical of their defense. They traded for they swapped out Marino for Ty Smith because of salary cap reasons, and they sent Ty Smith down to Scranton. Petry's going to have to show that he's the second half Jeff Petry and not the first half Jeff Petry, because the first half Jeff Petry was horrible. The second half, I think he played a little better. But I don't know how much, they traded out Matheson, who had a good year. They traded out Marino. They bring in Petry. They bring in Smith. I think their defense it's okay. Letang, I'm waiting for the time when Letang drops off the planet. He hasn't done it yet. He was fantastic last year. And, we know how good their forwards are, but they're a year older. And that's my main concern with Pittsburgh. There's no doubting their DNA. They have championship DNA. But the problem is that when they're in their mid 30s now, and, guys like Malkin can't play a full season. I don't know if they'll just those guys will be there enough.
I'm going to say this. Hextall has been quietly putting together a great front office. And he just brought in Kerry Huffman, who was a Phantoms coach. He was the coach down there, and now he is their pro scout. And I got to tell you, I just found an old quote from Mark Friedman singing the praises of Kerry Huffman in 2018, and now Mark Friedman's a Penguin, and so is Kerry Huffman. It's these little things that help a team like Pittsburgh get better when they don't have a lot of cap space and they don't have a ton of assets.
True.
They work very hard on, and Chris Pryor does a good job on, the draft, the development of guys, and also looking at free agents or guys that other teams might want to trade. Yes. Those kinds of things are how the Penguins are going to survive. And that's why I have them in third, because they always seem to just be able to plug in the right thing. I know Malkin said he's going to score 100 points. He's not going to score 100 points. But the point is, he feels good enough that he could, and that's good for the Penguins. And so, I keep him in third because right now you still can't bet against the core.
I think Malkin finally feels a little respected, honestly.
I think you're right.
And I think that's something that he's always had issues with. Like for a long time, he wanted to leave and have his own team.
I'm a little skeptical of that. There was one incident in training camp where a reporter went up to Malkin and wanted to talk to him, and he basically said, "Go talk to Sid. I don't want to talk." Like, it was almost like, I got my contract. Now I don't need to talk.
Oh, he's not. I mean, he's not a good guy for reporters at all. Yeah, never has been. I mean, he could speak English long before he allowed.
Yeah, he's very selective.
Remember our Russian friend Russ telling us all these things. About him because
yes.
Is she around, by the way? I haven't seen her in a while.
No.
She's not around anymore, right?
Or at least not lately. I don't know if she's going to come this season. I've chatted with her, but I'm not sure.
There was she was in the press box, and she's in the Flyers box, and
we would get the inside information on Malkin.
She spoke Russian, and she would tell us the different things, and she would say, he understands more than he lets on, but he can talk better than he lets on, but he doesn't love the media. He never has, right? It's just not his thing. And that, in a way, I think is why staying on Pittsburgh has helped in a way, because
Crosby shields him, even Letang shields him.
Yeah, if he went to his own team, he'd have to do that, So, right. And he doesn't do it well. He wouldn't like that. All right, so you guys, and number 2, I have the Rangers.
I just hope Mike stays awake on this one. I saw the yawn.
Sorry,
I have the New York Rangers for number 2.
Me too. I have the Rangers second.
I have Carolina second. I think that's
different teams there.
I mean, I'll tell you why I have the Rangers second. I'll go first on that one.
Yeah.
It's not about the goaltending. Obviously, Shesterkin didn't look great on opening night again. Did he really outduel Vasilevsky? Yeah, you have to say he did, but he's got more to work with now than Vasilevsky, so I'm not sure it's fair. The Rangers' defense is still an issue, and the fact that Kravtsov got thrown into the boards, and now who knows how long he's going to be out. they're hurting on wing. Like Kakko looked good though. Kakko looked really good in that game. He's just not going to be like a 70-point guy. You're hoping he could be like a 50-point guy and very good defensively. He's turned into a defensive juggernaut almost and really good puck possession guy, but he still has to be right near the net to be able to score. That's sort of an issue, but everything else is going good. I saw people ripping Kreider because he maybe missed an open net. He still got an assist, and he had a goal absolutely stolen from him from Vasilevsky. But again, if you're expecting Kreider to put up back-to-back 50-goal seasons, he's not going to do that.
No.
I mean, that's too much. But there's still this Kreider hate out there, which I don't get. Every team in the league would want that player.
Fun. I mean, the Rangers are a fun team to watch.
But they are a fun team.
Yeah.
They I know people worry about Gallant in the second year. I'm not worried about it because I think they have enough players that can control things on the ice that it almost doesn't matter what Gallant does. I know that's unfair, but when you have guys like Zibanejad, still like one of the best players, top 15 player in the league, and you have Panarin, still like a top 15 player in the league, and you know what? Those guys can control a lot of things on the ice, and they do. And Lafreniere is showing his physical side, which is great.
Yeah.
So I expect a good year out of him. So based on that, I think they're two. I just feel like, and now if Patrick Kane gets dealt early, I don't think they could make that trade. That's another thing I'm factoring in.
That's not definite at all. But
I know.
I think they have a good. I mean, I think
they have a chance at him for sure. But
all I'll say is this. Because I have Carolina too, and we talked a lot about Carolina. So I think that and the reason I picked Carolina 2 and the Rangers 1 is because I have more confidence in Shesterkin than I do Anderson. Not to say Anderson's not good because he had a fantastic year last year, but Shesterkin is obviously the Vezina Trophy winner. I think, I agree with Russ that the issues in terms of their bottom pairing, they don't have a lot of experience there. If they have injuries there, it's going to be a problem. But I think their top 2-3 lines are really good. Depth-wise, I mean, they can maybe find a way to add a piece here or there at the deadline like they did last year. But the big move is Kane, and I do believe if there is a trade of Kane at some point before the deadline, the Rangers are probably, them and Colorado are in the lead for him because they have the assets to be able to make
I think at the deadline they're much better positioned right now today. Right. I don't think they're well positioned, and especially with Kravtsov out, I think that even hurts more.
Right, but I
all of a sudden, Russ. I mean, like you feel like you're.
No, I mean for trade value because I think Chicago would be interested in him, but if he's not playing,
I get you that. I get that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. I don't think. See, I don't think a Kane deal is going to happen like right this minute. I think it could happen maybe before the All-Star break, depending on how bad Chicago is. And
they're bad. I watched a little of them in highlights. They're bad.
I watched a little, like about half a period of them against Colorado, and it was like, the Montreal Canadiens of the 70s against the AHL team. That's how, so it's not a good story. But I mean, I don't know how long, they're obviously going to want to trade him before he gets hurt. If he gets, the less time, the better in some sense, but I think that they're going to wait till be able to drum up competition for him because they want to maximize the value of a player who's won 3 Stanley Cups. So I think it's going to be probably closer to the All-Star break, between the All-Star break and the deadline.
True. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I picked the Rangers to win the Stanley Cup last year. We haven't done our Stanley Cup predictions yet. We should probably do that tomorrow.
Okay.
But I think that, and I think that they're going to go. I think they're going to be the best playoff team in this division, but I don't think they're going to finish first. I think the Penguins are going to finish first. I feel like
Penguins in first.
Yes, and here's why. I think this is the deepest Penguins team we've seen in a long time. I think that this is the healthiest Penguins team, and health is such a big thing. I mean, with them, I mean they play hurt. I mean, Getzel's hurt all the time. Malkin's hurt all the time. Those are 2 really good scorers. I mean, Getzel doesn't get enough credit for being what he is. I mean, he's an amazing player too. So, in his own right, and he makes Crosby. They work so well together. I love that they got Rust back. I love that they got Kasperi Kapanen back. Like I think Kasperi Kapanen's going to be. I think eventually he's going to slide into that.
He's an ultimate tease. I don't know.
I think he's going to slide into that place where Zucker is now and eventually play with Malkin and Rust. I think.
Yeah, their plan was for Zucker not to be there. Period. I mean,
right. I think that they thought Kapanen would replace him, but right now he's on the third line basically.
And honestly, Kasper Kapanen is the same player that he was 3 years ago when he was on the Leafs. He tantalizes you. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a good shot. He's speedy. He's decent defensively. He just simply can't finish. He's never been able to. He scored 20.
They don't need him to finish. They have enough of that. I mean,
they do act because
they need two-way players, and that's what he is. Like he's a solid two-way player.
You could have re-signed Zach Aston Reese for $800,000 and had a two-way player. You need him to score goals.
He will score some goals, but he doesn't have to be a 30-goal scorer. He's like he'll defensively, Dumoulin, Letang, Pedersen, Petrie, Joseph, and Ruda. That's 6 better defensemen than the Penguins have had in a long time too.
It's in the middle of the pack for the league, I think.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think it's a little bit better than that. Like I look at the Penguins kind of like I look at the Predators in terms of these are two teams I think are better than people realize. They made some really sneaky moves in the offseason. Ruda is one of them. I mean,
Ruda helps him. I'm not going to say he doesn't.
And because the kind of defensemen the Penguins get usually aren't like Jan Ruda. Like he is not the kind of guy that they tend to have. I think I like Ty Smith. I know he's in the minors right now. But
I like Ty Smith too. I think he'll come up at some point.
Boy, the reputation of Jan Ruda after winning 2 Stanley Cups being basically the gopher for Victor Hedman is unbelievable. I think he's a 5'6". I don't think he's anything special.
See, you rip on these guys when they play with better guys, but it's not always the easiest thing in the world to do. Like Hedman takes tons of liberties.
There's a difference between a guy like Devin Taves as a compliment to Cale Makar than Jan Ruta. As a compliment to Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman.
We'll get Alan Walsh on the show and talk about his client Jan Ruda.
I'm sure he'll love
it. Ruda goes from the number one pairing there in Tampa to the number 3 pairing in Pittsburgh. So we're not asking him to be
right because Victor Hedman was carrying him. Of course, Victor Hedman is on the top pairing.
You're going to see. I mean, I think you're going to see issues with. I mean, but they put Ruda there for a reason because he was smart. He was smart enough to be able to cover.
He is smart. He is a smart defenseman.
And you have to be smart. And the Penguins haven't had the smartest defensemen over the years. I have to say that they go for it offensively all the time, and especially when you have those forwards up front. Why wouldn't you? There's no question that that's like something that they're going to do. I also am really a big fan of Tristan Jarry, and I think what you're going to see with him this year, also just his puck handling ability too. Like that's another thing that people forget about. Like
it's really good.
Like there's something that Hextall probably loves in the guy, right? Like when we talk about Hextall, Jerry, he probably sees him. He probably sees a lot of himself in Jerry, honestly, because they're very similar as far as goalies go. And Tristan Jarry, he's going to give up a couple bad goals because he's going to overhandle the puck once in a while, but he's also going to just save the defense so often and make you have to. What happens here? Like I've said, my entire. For many years now about the Penguins is that they're a counterattack team, right? And that people don't realize that they are that, that they are really usually bad teams are counterattack teams. Penguins are a good counterattack team, and where most of their offense starts is at their own blue line when the other team makes a mistake and they go back the other way. And what is great about Jarry is he makes teams have to carry the puck over the blue line because if you dump in on Tristan Jarry, you're gonna have problems. Like
that's true.
Well, that plays into the Penguins perfectly. Like that plays into what they do perfectly because that if you're trying to make moves and make passes right at the blue line, you're going to make a mistake. And this also means the defense don't have to go back as often, and this means that you're going to have the 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s breaking the other way more often.
But here's the thing about Pittsburgh, and I think we've said the same thing about Tampa over the last few years, and I think it plays for Pittsburgh as well. The regular season is not important for them, not as important as it would be for other teams. All they want to do is get in the playoffs, and hopefully all their players being healthy. Because if you have Crosby and Malkin and Letang and all the players that they have, they can beat anybody anywhere. But the thing is, the regular season is not important enough for them to win first place in the division. They're not going to go.
That's true.
Yeah, they're not going to go. They're not going to go balls out to win the division.
I feel like because of what has happened. I mean, I agree with you before, but because of all the playoff disasters that they've had, and they definitely feel like they got screwed last year. Now, regardless of whether or not you think they got screwed or not, they feel like they got screwed because of the hit. Trouba I think it was a legal hit, but before Trouba makes that hit, it really looked like the Penguins were going to take out the Rangers.
Heck, I got to run in a minute, but I wanted to mention one thing. Another thing about Carolina, Tom Galiti just brought up. Right now, Brent Burns is living in an RV. They're waiting for their house to be ready, and while their house is getting ready, they are living in an RV, and that's a reason why they're going to do much better this year because he is a gamer.
And he makes them so much more interesting to watch. They're not an interesting team to watch.
And Russ, I've seen that RV before because that's the RV that he keeps all of his snakes in.
He has a whole
Listen, I'm telling you, he's bringing a flavor to Carolina, like X said.
Zoo in Texas that he keeps his whole zoo in Texas
that they haven't had.
Yeah. I love them, but I think that we're going to see. I think the Penguins have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to have a really good regular season. And I think that's now, like I said, I think the Rangers are going to come out of this division in the playoffs, but I think that the Penguins are going to have a really strong regular season.
We'll see.
We'll see for sure. Well, that's it for today, folks. Mike, enjoy the game up there tonight. And enjoy all the openers tonight. It's great stuff. So wherever you are, hope you're safe. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow on Friday after I end the show.